welcome back to another episode of the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. We got the full crew here today. My name is Brian Vitale. Joining me, we have Josh Torres.
Hello.
Mikhail Mandani.
Hello.
Adam Vitale.
Hello.
James Glazio.
Hey, folks.
And Chao Minwoo.
How's it going?
We are recording this in the middle of October. We are basically between Digimon Week, which we covered last week, and Pokemon Week, which we're going to cover next week. So this is kind of like the weird October gap. We talked about how October is so packed, and it is, but this week kind of falls, like we have a lot of things that we're working on, but we either can't or are not ready to talk about those things yet. In terms of like embargoes, releases, things like that. If you look at the calendar, you can kind of see where I'm getting at. So this week, we have a few things to kind of cover in the gaps while we wait for those big releases to come out towards the end of the month, late October, early November. So this week, we're going to catch up on a few things that have been kind of going in the background. We have a few more previews that are up on the site. We have a few smaller things to catch up on in terms of media events and things like that. Some updates on some news. We're going to kind of play it by ear to see like what we're going to focus on this week. That's really kind of it. So we're going to start out with a game that has good word of mouth. Isn't quite an RPG. It's not a game that we've covered, but we might have mentioned it in passing on a previous podcast. I don't quite remember. And I might butcher the naming, the pronunciation. The game here is Absolum. So this is a Hades-like, to my understanding. But I'm going to hand the microphone over to Josh, who has played this and hasn't covered it for us, but has been really excited about this. And I don't really know what your impressions are on it. So I don't know if you feel good or bad or something more nuanced than that. But I know you've been playing this game. It just recently released. And well, we're gonna cover it because we have the opportunity to here. And it has some similar RPG DNA, is my understanding. So we figured we might as well, at least give it a quick look in at our podcast, even if we don't cover it on our site formally.
Yeah.
So Absolum.
Absolum is a game that was first on my radar when it went into. There was like a demo for it at some Steam Nexus event some time back, and it's from the developers of Streets of Rage 4. So you have the Guard Crush, I believe, is the name of the studio primarily who developed Streets of Rage 4, and then published by .mu and all sorts of stuff. But they're very good at that side scroll beat 'em up brawler genre. And the Absolum is kind of a landmark title for this studio because it's kind of the first one they've made based on an original IP. It's not based on like a previous established series and whatnot. So I was really hooked on it when the demo came out. And the basic setup of this game is that you're in this kind of fantasy world where magic has been sort of banned. Wizards have been prosecuted. There's this ruler named Azura who's ruling the land with an iron fist, and you take control of 1 out of 4 playable characters to kind of go on your run, to go travel to the tower that Azura is in and beat him up, so to speak. So you only unlock 2 at the beginning, and you unlock the other 2 playable characters as the journey goes on. Your starting characters are a woman, an elf named Galandra. She attacks their kind of mix of fists and kicks, and then her special attack is using her sword. The other playable character is Carl. He's a dwarf who primarily specializes in beating up people with his fists and grabbing them, and then his heavy special skills using a headbutt. And then the other 2 playable characters are Cider, which is this rogue that uses kind of the swift character archetype of the group that primarily uses gadgets as their special skill. Their special skill is extending one of their prosthetic arms and sort of doing that Mortal Kombat Scorpion, get over here, except you fling yourself towards them instead of you pulling them in. And the other one is Brome. He's a frog mage. It's really cool. And as you can guess, primarily uses his staff to attack. You need to kind of build up mana to start using his skills. Obviously, the skills are mainly magic, range, focus based. And then special attack is like a big burst of energy. That's kind of like a get off me move, and so forth. And as you mentioned, This is there's run based. It's sort of like Hades in the sense that like yes, when you are traveling across the land through like these arena like nodes on a map, and each of them are like side scroller beat 'em up stages that once you complete them, you're awarded either like some sort of currency, like crystals that unlock like meta progression back at your base. Whether that's like, hey, you started with more health, or you build up like more health or damage for like the companions that you can hire on your way to the boss. Um, and then you can also be awarded with like money for to use on shops or like new skill modifiers, whether that's like adding a new skill to your arsenal or a new move to your move set in that run, or modifying something about like what are your skills and so forth. Much like Hades in that regard. And then when you go into the next room, sometimes there's like a branching path of like, hey, which path do you want to go down towards? But unlike Hades, and I think there's something they should add, but unlike Hades, they don't immediately show you like when you go travel down a path that like you'll be awarded with this um like thing when you complete this. Like you see in Hades, when you go down a path, you'll see that like you're gonna be awarded with gold or your or something that'll upgrade your max health or something like this god will show up and you can get one of their powers. And this one, it doesn't really show you that when you enter or commit to a room on that, which I think they should add. It's not a big deal.
And I'll just mention that Toa had that also as
Oh,
a
okay.
roguelike game. It basically just let you know what type of reward you could expect, not specifically what it was, but like the category.
I actually wasn't sold on the game initially. I remember you brought it up before, and I just put it on my wish list. And I was like, I'll get to it eventually. And then someone I follow on Blue Sky posted about Mick Gordon doing the soundtrack, and I was like, okay, let me listen to this, and I heard that it was really good. Then I heard Yuka Kitamura did a song, and I was like, okay, it was becoming like that Vince McMahon meme where he was getting more excited. And then I heard the rest of the soundtrack which they had uploaded, and I was like, okay, this is something I should pay attention to. And I got the game on Switch, and I loved it. So what I wanted to know is, yeah, you covered the Hades stuff about how it like brings those elements into this, but what I've been getting from it, like after a few runs now, is doesn't it feel like a weird blend where they've taken an arcade, like one of those proper classic old Capcom arcade beat 'em ups thing, but they've tried to modernize it or add modern roguelike elements to it. But the problem is, because you have like a hand drawn and animated beat 'em up, you can't really rely on procedural generation for a lot of stuff, except for I guess enemy placements. So I think what they've done is they've like designed like bespoke levels, like so many of them with stages, and they've put them like you have a fork in the road where you decide where to go next, and that kind of gives you some variety. But based on what I've played, I think I'm 15 hours in or 12 hours in or something. It feels like this is a game where they tried to give classic beat 'em up fans a taste of modern roguelites, and to what degree they succeeded will depend on like how much you enjoy replaying the same stuff over and over again, because Absolum doesn't have the variety that Hades or Hades 2 have, or even I think Tova kind of had this problem where Tova did a lot of what Hades got right, like it tells you what you'd unlock in the next room, but I don't know. I feel like Absolum is this weird. It's like tickling this weird part of my brain because I love Streets of Rage 4 and I played that for a ton of time on everything. But then this is like kind of giving me like a remix playthrough every time I get to it, with how the meta progression is not just like because that's what they've designed the game for, but they've also tied that into the narrative in a smart way. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely like this is a game that's like you can, like you said, it doesn't really have the replayability of like Hades. It's like there's like a finite amount of things that you unlock in this, where like in both Hades games, it feels like you have such a treasure trove of things to unlock. While this one, like I'm like 10 hours into my save file, and I've basically unlocked everything except like beating the final boss on this, because stuff happens when you beat a run, your first run in it. Um, but uh, like you mentioned, because they're kind of utilizing their Shooter Rage 4 expertise, and they actually um experimented with this roguelite structure in a later DLC in Streets of Rage 4. They actually added like a roguelite mode to it, which was definitely a prototype leading up into this game. It wasn't like, I think it was like more like single room arenas in Streets of Rage 4, more survival wave type in the way that they handled it. But it was definitely those building blocks in the same way that like how Arc System works. I made like a 3v3 mode in Guilty Gear Strive. Obviously, they were experimenting with, that as a prototype to Marvel Tokon, which will release next year, and so forth. So, and like you mentioned, this game, the nature of your runs is very deeply tied into the narrative in the sense of like, if you pick this character to go on this run, there might be different story beats that happen in this run that concern more about this character, like Galandra, for example. Um, she has when you finish the first zone and go into the second zone. Usually in the second zone at first, it's like a more swamp area type landmass, but there's a chance you'll trigger one of like the events that allows you to go to like an alternate second zone, and that second zone is more deeply narratively tied to Galandra because that's where she's from. That's her homeland. So obviously, there's a lot of more story beats that concern her in that um, landmass. So there's even variety in terms of like the second zone specifically. I'm like you get to eventually decide like, hey, which second zone do you want to go to, and they all have different enemies and different bosses and different pathways and different narrative beats in that regard. So it's cool, and even like in the second zone that you unlock, like as you progress further towards it, there's like near the end of that second zone leading up to the boss, you can actually get like you can go like into like two very different paths, and one of those paths is like going through this like almost like mini riddle, where you have to use the emote system to open up a gate, and you'll get access to like a mansion area, and that mansion area towards the end of it has like a normal boss and like a secret boss in it, which is like really cool. Like if you're able to sniff these things out, and even along the way when you're first starting out with these characters, going like on your initial runs, you'll start getting like side quests along your um, playthrough, and you actually have like an overworld map that you can pop up to see like where you are on the map, like which node you are, which zone you're in, and it'll actually show you like if you have a side quest, like hey, the thing that is gonna progress this side quest, like whether you have to like find the boss or find the thing, it's like on this specific node on the map. So there's even like an RPG element of like, hey, there's like side quests that like you might not be able to like finish until like a later run because you already committed to a path this run that there's no way you can like get the thing for that side quest until like you go through this way again and choose an alternate path that will touch upon that object of interest in that side quest. So there's a nice flow of progression in it. I just think that like the blessing and curse of this game, because when you think of like belt action games as they're described in Japan, like these side scroller beaten ups like Streets of Rage, is that usually though that type of game really excels at like not overextending itself per playthrough. Like the best belt action games, like usually maybe take like 2, maybe 3 hours at most to like finish them because they're so tightly designed to have like all killer, no filler. Because they're designed for that arcade experience. You don't want to be stuck in an arcade experience of like for more than like an hour and a half at most. In that regard, and this game, as you just said, Mikhail, is that a run in this game takes maybe 45 minutes on average, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more, depending on how fast you're going through it. But eventually there's a finite amount of this game in the sense like after say 9.5 to 10 hours on for me could be a little bit more for some other people that like I've already unlocked pretty much everything in terms of like all the character skills that you can unlock, all the tree upgrades of like the things that you can start out with, all the little elemental modifiers that you can get. So in terms of like the meta progression stuff, like I've pretty much unlocked everything, and now I'm just like I'm working for that final completion to like kill the final boss. But after that, I think the only thing left for me would be like getting like one of every item to fill up like the item gallery back at your home base. But it's kind of like in a weird crossroads where like you can't make too much of it because it would kind of kill that belt action brawler beat 'em up spirit. But at the same time, it feels like it wants me. I want more of it, but I understand why there's only such a finite amount of it. It's kind of this weird paradoxical thing for me because I guess I'm a little bit like different, and I guess all of you in here in this as well. We're like I'm used to like extended playthroughs of games because of hey, when you work at RPG site, you play out a lot of RPGs, and you're used to like pretty lengthy experiences and not like almost like bite-sized experiences. Like you play more of like the longer games than you do the shorter ones, so your brain kind of morphs and transforms into what your
But
expectations
it's
are
not a
out of
bad
games.
thing though. It sounds just like old traditional arcade games, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a really cool game. I really love the atmosphere of it. I love the performances of the characters, and like Mikhail said, like it has a really killer soundtrack. Very. They got a handful of like guest artists on board that have like excellent tracks. That the whole package feels really good to play, especially the moment to moment action and like the combo routing feels very responsive and punchy and very impactful. Like in the middle of your combo, you can have like dash cancels in it, and you can like vary it up, your combos. Because in this game, if you try to do like the same action too much, you'll get like a repetitive penalty on that. So you get like less reward, and eventually, if you kind of keep on doing the same action over and over, you'll fill up a pressure gauge faster than you would originally would, and that pressure gauge eventually gets it so that enemies will go into an overpressure state. So they'll kind of break out of your combo, and you can no longer combo them. They have to like recover first before you can like hit them again. So part of the strategy for some of the characters is like, how do I mix up my moves to get them in a long combo so you don't fill up that pressure gauge too fast, and then for them to like break out of it too. So it does like it carries on that spirit of like having a deep and fulfilling like combo philosophy that a lot of these belt action side scrollers had back in the day too, and that it's really fun to mess around with.
I think from where you are in the game right now, it'll only have longevity if you really enjoy the moment to moment combat, and it is like fantastic so far. So I think if someone played Streets of Rage 4 for like a shitload of time, even after they like saw the credits and unlocked all the characters, and they were still enjoying it, I think they'll find a lot to love over here, because even though I think they pushed way above their weight, even though this game clearly has like a lot of budget behind it for their art, animation, and music, I think they really like overdid in a good way just how varied they made it feel with the restriction that they had to have everything handmade. So it's pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Like the more I played, like the first playthrough, I thought, I don't know if Streets of Rage 4 style something like that mixed with Hades would actually like have any staying power, but they nailed it. And like if the combat clicks with you, there's just so much you can just keep coming back to this. And there's one thing which we haven't brought up yet, which like I didn't have much time to try that like pre-release or whatever, but it has online co-op. Like you can just play this with friends. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it supports up
that's
to
really good to see.
it supports up to two player co-op. So the online connectivity is good because you actually use rollback netcode for this game to handle that stuff. So rollback netcode is something you'll see primarily in modern fighting games these days. It's a very great netcode solution when done properly, and the way that they implemented rollback netcode here feels really good. So yeah, the online play just with another person feels fantastic because you guys are like kind of progressing together, and it does it in a way where like you whatever you gain in that play session with your friend, you're able to take back into your game. So when you're, let's say I connected with someone and they're barely starting the game, it'll still, when I connect to them, it'll take the one with the lowest progression and sync it up with yours, in the sense that like I'm starting at where they're starting at, but I have all my upgrades, all my meta progression stuff, and any currency that I get from their game, I get to bring it back to my game. There's like no, but we're not like skipping content together for them to sync up to mine. So they still get that full experience, while you kind of reap the rewards of like any of like currency and meta progression stuff that you unlock on your end, in that regard. So it's a really well done game. Definitely I'm very happy that they were able to, make this their own thing, not beholden to any like established IP, anything like that, and it really shines in that regard. A very well done, excellent game, Guard Crush. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do next because they've really established themselves as like, hey, they understand how modern belt action games should be done. I think they've really nailed that formula.
I think we need to give
Is
a
it-
shout out to Super Monk Studio because they're the ones who handle the art and animation work in
Oh, for sure.
this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like
was
a
gonna ask, is it
combination of like
two-player
guard.
or four-player?
Up to 2 players.
Two. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And it is not crossplay from what I can tell because when I tried from the Switch version playing with a friend of mine on Steam, we just couldn't connect to each other, so I ended up like buying it on Steam to play with
I
him.
see.
So
Yeah. I haven't tried
that's
it
a bit
yet.
unfortunate, but yeah, like I'm just glad it has online and it's so well implemented. They this feels like a game that's been in early access for a while and it's just shipped mega polished, but I guess they didn't have early access at all. It just had a demo which you liked a lot, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then like everyone just like loves it right now and it's a lot of people on my list are playing it. So like good on them.
And he doesn't know that I'm going to shout him out, but George Foster, who used to be on this podcast, reviewed Absolum for the Gamer and gave it a pretty good score. So go check that out. Yeah. Tell us we sent you if you can leave a comment on that page. At this point, I think we're going to keep the microphone in Josh's hands. You had a few other things that you covered. You had a preview that you did, and you were looking ahead at some things for Steam's next demo festival. So I wasn't sure specifically what you wanted to talk about next in terms of your preview or the Steam Next Fest.
So a game that got announced about roughly 2 years ago, it's like around September 2023. There was this game coming out called Dark Auction: Hitler's Estate, and it was from Izanagi Games and a very credible staff member when they first announced that was Rika Suzuki, and she's worked on games like Another Code, Hotel Dusk, JB Herald, and stuff like that. A very fascinating scenario writer, game designer. Just worked on some like some adventure games that like I truly respect. So I was like, oh, interesting, like that they're working with Izanagi Games to kind of uh, for this next. At first, it looked like a visual novel, but it's more of an adventure game because there are like parts in it where you actually move around in first person. But I was like, this is kind of weird. That's like it's being obviously tied to like having like Hitler in the name of the game and whatnot, and it's just it was like in a weird spot where like I kind of felt really weird about like I don't know. But eventually they dropped that subtitle out of it and they reintroduced it recently as just Dark Auction, and they kind of scrubbed Hitler's mention in the game and just put them as Dictator X. It's almost like the Persona 2 Innocent Sin scenario, or the original game. I don't know if the original PS1 release ever mentioned that like Hitler was like one of the final bosses in it, or they had like just what the original name of it is the original script. But obviously it was directly referencing Hitler in Innocent Sin.
No, it was Hitler. It was it then the PSP localization just called the Führer.
Mysterious guy with aviators.
Right.
He has sunglasses.
Yeah. So that just recently, a few days ago, before Steam Next Fest even starts next week, they reintroduced that Dark Auction just under that name, with a demo. Another person who people might know is the character design is from Gangsta. It's a well-known like manga. I believe the author's name is Kosuke. So for people who see the character design of this game, if they're fans of Gangsta, they might recognize it. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty interested in like what this game is putting down. So I gave the demo a shot, about half an hour long. It has a really interesting setup because you take control of this character named Noah, and he's in the middle of this taxi ride and like go towards almost like castle mansion at the middle of nowhere, and he's there to go pick up his dad because his dad is like a history buff and is attending this auction at this mysterious place, this estate, for historical memorabilia and so forth. So he arrives there and goes into this estate, and after kind of sneaking around and making sure that, like, he doesn't want to know that people are there. He eventually finds his dad there, and his dad is on a chair with like this weird, like, helmet, like almost like cyberpunk helmet with a lot of wires and goggles over it. And essentially, his dad's dead, from what we know in this prologue. And you meet like the head of the auction, the one who's holding this auction there. And this dude, he refers to him as Parrot Man because he's wearing like a parrot mask. It's basically this suited up dude, but he has a parrot head on him, and I assume it has to be a helmet. There's no way this dude is like actually a parrot, but I don't know. And the reason his dad is there is that they had this device on him to go search his memories, and because they're trying to look for something you don't exactly know what the mystery is, but there's something that they want out of his memories to use for their foundation that they're working for, and so forth. And they said, like, hey, your dad signed off on joining this auction, and everything was like consensual, and he knew the risks, if he didn't follow the rules, essentially, right? And you being this dude's son is like, he's kind of overcome with everything. Like, dad just kind of got killed off, and you don't know exactly why, and all you know is that you have to go participate in this auction to go find out the truth of like why his dad died and who did it, essentially. And you participate in this auction to make sure that like all the items in store get auctioned off successfully. So, and the way that this is all presented to you is, like I said earlier, some parts of it is the running around in first person to go to like objects or items of interest that'll be on a mini map. Sometimes when you go into a place, it'll go into this more traditional adventure game view where like you have this still background image and you have a cursor to go highlight things in the environment, to go observe them. And sometimes you respond to like people and conversations, like the one with the parrot man. You have like different dialogue choices to kind of get more info on like what is happening, and so forth. So I think if people are interested in adventure games like Another Code and Hotel Dusk and are generally a fan of like those more mystery adventure games that sort of have like the surreal element to them, I think this game might have something cool. There's a demo for it on Steam, about half an hour long. Like I said, it comes out, I believe, at the end of January next year, January 29th, and that'll be on PS5, Switch, and PC. I don't want to reveal too much more of like on what happens. I want people to try see for themselves, like how the prologue progresses and see if that catches their interest. But it's a pretty interesting game, and I'm very interested to see like what sorts of things will get involved here, because obviously even though Hitler is not explicitly mentioned in the game anymore, there's still this Dictator X, and obviously the artwork for this Dictator X very much resembles Hitler, So, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say worried, but I'm intrigued on where this game is going. What sorts of ideas are they going to explore? Other than that, there are some other games that I wasn't able to get around to that I do have demos downloaded for. There's Skate Story that has been around the indie events for quite a long time now. Finally coming out in December. There's a demo for it. I want to check that out. There's one
Amazing
called,
demo.
yeah, I hear good things about it. There's one called Blood Grounds, which is like, I guess it's like a strategy RPG or a tactical game, but there's gladiators involved. Of course, that's like kind of like a weird thing to look back on now. It's like, oh, so it's like the new Fire Emblem game. It's not. It's definitely not. But
I do
it's
want
called.
to check out
Go
that
for it.
Skate Story demo, though. At TGS, I actually walked by a demo for it, and I guess the main developer was there, and I was like, yeah, I've been interested in it ever since you kind of built it. It was like an RPG skating game. It's like, it's not really an RPG anymore. It's like, okay, guess we're not covering it specifically. I didn't say it to him, but that's what I was thinking. It's like,
Oh, I
okay,
see.
good to know.
Um,
Still want to give it a shot though.
mhm. So that was Bloodgrounds. I was talking about the tactical game with the gladiators. That people seem to be liking that. There's also one called Ghost of Vanguard that I believe also is gonna go into crowdfunding Kickstarter soon. But they have a demo out, which is also like a beat 'em up action game that looks really nice. Really great pixel art and animations based on what the Steam store page for Ghost of Vanguard shows off. So. And yeah, and then I'm sure when Steam Next Fest rolls around officially next week, I'll have a lot to kind of chow down on and see what seems cool. I always love Steam Next Fest, and also for better or for worse, my Vampire Survivors bug kicked in, and people were talking about this game called Mega Bonk, and I've been kind of playing Mega Bonk on the side here and there to kind of scratch the itch of Vampire Survivors in my head. Like a 3D Vampire Survivor. Pretty cool. Mega Bonk. Good name too.
Yeah, we're recording this on the 11th, and the Steam Next Fest starts on the 13th. So within a day of this going up, it'll probably be live. This podcast going up. I think that kind of covers it. Wait, did you want to talk about just while you have the floor? Did you want to talk about Aether and Iron?
Yeah, I mean, I did an interview for that several weeks ago for at PAX West. I didn't get around to putting it up until just recently because it was a pretty it was a lengthy interview in the sense that it was with the narrative lead Tyler Whitney, and he's a very fascinating guy, very detailed, thorough answers. But we were just discussing their upcoming game Aether and Iron, which is coming out next year on PC. It's a narrative adventure game, and when you see screenshots of it, I'm sure you'll think of Disco Elysium because it's very much kind of that kind of same perspective where you have skill checks both with your inner monologue and other with other people. And I was just really fascinated about the worldview this game was in because it takes place in a retro futuristic New York. Um, and he is a big fan of history, so he kind of does a pretty in-depth walkthrough of the development of that game from the narrative side of how real life historical events surrounding New York directly inspired and informed the development of that game. And he gave some pretty detailed and thorough response of key moments and figures in New York's history of how their stories inspired some of the characters in their game. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff in terms of how narratives are formed in RPGs, it's a really, really great chat with him, and I highly recommend checking that out whenever people have the time to read it, because I know it's a lengthy interview.
Well, thank you, Josh, for kind of covering the gamut from the new release Absolum to some previews of some demos upcoming with the Steam Next Fest and Dark Auction, and then wrapping up some coverage for Aether and Iron, the quote Disco Elysium with a cool interview opportunity that you had for that game. We're going to kind of take a similar tack and kind of go give the microphone over to James. And James, similar to Josh, I know you've had a couple of different things. You have one feature up on the site for a game you had a chance to cover, and I do know that you had a Metaphor ReFantazio event, which if people have been following the headlines, they kind of know what the outcome of that was. But I was just, if you wanted to speak to the event itself, you could also do that as well. So I know you also covered Let It Die, Inferno. And I wasn't sure if you had anything else for the last week that you had covered. So here's just your opportunity to take the floor for a bit.
Yeah. So I guess I'll talk about the preview that I alluded to. I alluded to it last week, so there's not really too much to talk about because I do think I talked about it a little bit. But one of the last housekeeping things from Tokyo Game Show that I wanted to talk about was I did have a chance to play a little bit of Let It Die Inferno. As I said in that preview, I played a little bit of Let It Die when it first launched on PlayStation 4 back in the day. I did not stick with it to any significant amount. So playing Let It Die Inferno, it's like, yeah, this feels very obviously similar to the original, but I could not tell you the exact changes because, again, wasn't a big player of the original. What I did play of it was almost a decade ago. But it seems neat. Like I said, I am interested that this is not a free to play title. I am a little bit worried about additional monetization. We'll see. I believe that actually a demo for this is upcoming for the Steam Next Fest. I'm not sure if it's up yet or if it's going to be up when it officially starts, because I know some demos have been starting to go up early, which is something that people developers have been doing. Yeah, no. So the demo's not live yet, but apparently it is going to be part of Steam Next Fest in a couple of days. So maybe I'll check it out then. Probably will be a better demo showcase than the one at Tokyo Game Show where it reset every 20 minutes. So I wasn't really able to see the full gameplay loop besides reading between the lines. But yeah, seems neat. I will probably play a bit of this, and yeah, not much else to say besides that. There was
It's releasing in
metaphor.
December. I
Yeah,
forget
it's
if you said that or
releasing in
not, but
December.
yeah.
Well, December, yeah. And the other main thing is there was that Metaphor ReFantazio 1 year anniversary live stream yesterday, and I guess as part of the fact that they're doing a promotional thing with round 1 in the United States, Atlas hosted a 1 year anniversary celebration party at the Burbank round 1 last night. And they also had a watch party for the live stream, which the only thing of note that they announced was the round 1 collaboration. And there's a slightly new digital bundle for the
Thing.
games.
Yeah.
So not really too much to say there. It was neat.
I like
Yeah.
two things about that first anniversary shoot because I watched it. I thought I knew there wasn't going to be anything too big because there's nothing on the Japanese side of it. So there's if Japan isn't involved, there's not going to be any new news, so to speak, of whatever it was going to be. So I already came in there with my expectations were it's going to be a small thing. But the two things I'll shout out for it: one, the lady who made the cake for that anniversary celebration. Props to her on that. That cake looked fucking amazing, and the whole walkthrough of making it, really cool. I enjoyed that. Two, all the English voice actor messages were really awesome to see too. Just hey, they came back and they are just kind of sharing all kind of blown away by the community, enduring community interaction with that game, and people expressing their passion and their love, what that game brought. Because it's sometimes it's with our line of profession here at RPG site, sometimes there's a sense of kind of set it and forget it, so to speak, of because we're speaking about games that are modern in terms of what's in the moment or looking forward, that sometimes we forget that kind of look back on what we've covered before. But I still have very fond memories of Metaphor of what I played when I reviewed that game last year from beginning to finish. I was still one hell of a game. Very to see if they're going to take it anywhere next. But it's cool to see that people still
I mean,
really
it was
love
our game
that
of the
game.
year, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and we're releasing,
Yeah.
it's an it's old news game that released 1 whole year ago. So I know what
Yeah.
you mean about the rat race that is. So
I
yeah,
know.
obviously it was. So I knew that we obviously coming into this podcast, we knew that there wasn't anything announced, but still thought it was a cool opportunity. Celebrate a game that was received really well and has built a small, a dedicated fan base. I won't even say small, a good sized fan base for a new IP that I'm almost certain they're going to follow up on in some fashion in the future. And cool to see the voice actors return and fans exhibiting their exuberance for the game.
Yeah.
Yep, Metaphor is still a fantastic game. I did see some people upset that there's not a Switch 2 version announced. Where
For
it's
sure. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
One
it.
thing one thing I will say is it was always going to be like Persona 3 Reload first, because it's like that's Unreal Engine. That's easier to do a port. This is their in-house engine. They have to do a lot more work to get that running on a Switch 2.
But
So,
it's like on a chronological table, like Persona 3 Reload came out first between
Yeah.
them as well. Makes sense.
I still keep thinking they're gonna make like some royal edition with some new girl that comes in the middle story.
You never know.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a year, so we can say it sets up like at the very end possibility for like a post like story DLC if they wanted to. They don't have to. It's not like a cliffhanger, but if they wanted to, that would be a good spot for it. Though I will say that it's kind of disappointing we never got experience. Like there was very obviously what felt like a dungeon cut. Like it's like we never got to explore the like magic school. It's like, or whatever it was
Yeah.
called. It's like it feels like that was something that could have been there. And that's like my one thing with metaphor where it's like, okay, I can see where maybe it was never intended. Maybe this was always like what they wanted from the game. But that one region on like the east side of the map definitely feels like it could have been fleshed out just a little bit more in the final product. So
Mhm.
I think at the moment, like we don't really know of any like brand new Atlas projects that are coming out in the future, right? As of this moment.
Persona 4 remake.
Oh
Persona
yeah,
4.
that's right. I forget.
But that's not
a
brand
thing.
new though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of depends on your framing, but I know what you mean.
Like a reinterpretation of a product, of a game they've made. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget that the Persona 4 remake is a thing because there's only like 5
was
seconds.
barely
of
an
it.
Yeah, the
announcement.
trailer was very bare bones.
We have a title card and like 10 seconds. Yeah.
It was like very bare bones. I think it wasn't even ready to show it.
It's also like I was surprised now that you mentioned it. Like I was like, oh yeah, they never showed that Tokyo Game Show either. That was like not one of the mystery titles or anything. They didn't have it there.
I joked.
I think that's
I joked that because Sega had like all the like their mystery titles on their lineup slots, and I made a joke like it's gonna be another Vanillaware game, and it was like literally like all Yakuza ports.
I bet you
That was the best.
I bet you will probably get something about Persona 4 at like the Game Awards, because like Jeff Keighley loves to like bring back like award winners, and like one of the things they did during that live stream was like literally a victory lap of, hey, we got 3 Game Awards and a BAFTA. It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, that's how they opened up the stream that anniversary stream. Oh yeah.
Now it wasn't a brand new announcement, but Persona announcements have been made on one of Jeff's stages before. I forget which one it was, but I remember Persona Strikers, the English version, which again was like 2 years late, appeared at one of those. So it can happen.
No, it's just gonna be a trailer for some character in Persona 5: The Phantom X. Instead of Hoyo, it's Atlas now.
And our last set of previews are some Mikhail specialties. So you've covered a handful of games, a lot of Square Enix titles. Actually, I guess these are all Square Enix titles. So they're different features, but you've been looking at a lot of different Square Enix games in terms of Switch 1 versus Switch 2, in terms of the recently released Final Fantasy Tactics. And you've taken a look back at Romancing Saga 2, which of course has its international version coming out with the additional translations. So wait, was that Romancing Saga 2 or was that Minstrel? That's Minstrel
that's
Song.
Romancing.
My bad.
That's Minstrel Song. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
That's
Too many
Romancing Saga 1.
games. Yeah. Oops. So anyway, Mikhail, I know you put up a few features up on the site. Maybe you can just kind of quickly blitz through these about like what your key takeaways are for like your deep dive into Square Enix's posture when it comes to Switch 1 versus Switch 2 release. I don't know what parameters.
Yeah, so I'll get to that after I tackle the first two. So the first thing I did was Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven, because it recently came to Xbox platforms. It's like an Xbox Play Anywhere game, so it's on Xbox Series X and on like what they are calling Xbox on PC, which is the Windows Store. And because they recently released it on, they gave you a Switch 2 upgrade, like a $10 upgrade for Switch owners. And I thought, like, why not? So like I just did my comparison and I covered all the versions of that, and interesting things with how the Switch 2 version ended up being really good, but they still could have done a bit more over there. But I just think Romancing Saga 2 is like such a fantastic RPG, and this is one of the rare Saga games which, like, I guess Saga Frontier 2 is like, it's like an old game remastered or whatever, but Romancing Saga 2 Remake, it's like polished on everything. There's no real caveat to, if you want to play it on Switch 1, go ahead. You're not getting a bad experience. It's not like dog shit like Emerald Beyond on Switch or anything like that. Like, this is just a good game on every platform, and it's just better on a few others. And now it's on every platform, so there's no excuse anymore. And there's a demo also, so like just download it and try it out. So that was the first thing. With Final Fantasy Tactics, this took like a while because I foolishly decided to do like an even more in-depth feature in a very busy period, because I wanted to look at how I did FF9 and Chrono Trigger, going through the old versions and like just examining what they've changed and what's the best version you can play it today. And with Final Fantasy Tactics, like just the Cliff Notes version, if you may, is like it released on PS1 with a translation which a lot of people grew up with. I don't care much for that translation because I prefer the War of the Lions translation. Uh, War of the Lions was like a enhanced remake or remaster of the PS1 version, which they released on PSP. They made some changes. It also has like a lot of performance issues on PSP. That got ported to mobile, removed all the performance issues, and it has really good touch controls, but no controller support. Since then, there was no official way to play FF Tactics aside from like the PlayStation Classics on Vita or PS3. And with the Ivalice Chronicles, Square Enix is like, I think they threw the kitchen sink in terms of like so much new stuff, but they also just fell short of like what I would call a 10 on 10 game, because like the Ivalice Chronicles, they added so much. Then the classic mode which they've added is a completely different way you can play the game, which they say is gives you a nostalgic feeling of playing the original. But then they make you play the PS1 style aesthetic with pixel art, but using the War of the Lions translation. And the problem with this is, like, on paper, that should be a good way to experience the original. But the thing is, the classic mode has none of the quality of life features except for autosave. So there's no fast forwarding or anything. And, like, frankly, I don't care. And I don't care for the game to play the classic version anymore, because the Ivalice Chronicles or the enhanced version, everything is so snappy. The new voice acting, the new state of the realm, like that FF16 style feature, and just generally all the new content and conversations they added just makes it like what I think is the best version for newcomers. And I feel like if someone is who plays this and they want to experience the older versions, I would say the mobile version after that is like the most accessible. But yeah, with Final Fantasy Tactics, I just examined everything, covered it, all versions, visuals, performance, whatever. And then both of these actually had upgrade paths from Switch 1 to Switch 2. With Tactics, it was a free upgrade. With Romancing Saga, it was a paid upgrade. And we have like Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake coming in a few, I think it's a few weeks, or yeah, it's a few weeks now. And then after that, you have Octopath Traveler 0 from Square Enix, also coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2. And then in February, you have Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined. Now, the thing is, I don't know how they decide what cross generation features they add to each Switch game, because some games let you transfer save data, some games let you pay an upgrade, some games let you do nothing, some games have physical releases, some games have nothing. So it's just like so many of these Square Enix games are coming out, and many of them are cross generation. I was just like getting annoyed with how inconsistent it was, and I put together an article explaining what features are offered with each Switch 1 to Switch 2 version for Square Enix, and my speculation on why they decided to like either implement or not implement some features. Because if you if you have like Tactics and Romancing Saga, which Nintendo Switch 2 edition branding, now what that means is it's a proper cross generation title where your save data works across Switch 1 and Switch 2, and you can upgrade. If you want to do a physical release of a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, you have to spring for the expensive cartridge. And given Tactics is a low price release and Romancing Saga 2 is like a late Switch 2 upgrade, I think Square Enix didn't want to do that, so they just made it digital only. Now the problem is, with Octopath Traveler 0, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake, and Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined, Square Enix clearly wants to have retail presence for the Switch 2 version. So their option would either be pay for the more expensive, reportedly Switch 2 proper cartridge. Like, when I interviewed Ken Berry of Marvelous, and he said that it wouldn't make financial sense for them to do a proper physical 2 ROM, a proper ROM on cartridge, physical Switch 2 release, just putting words in my mouth, because it wouldn't make financial sense. And if we assume that's how it works for other publishers, it kind of doesn't make sense for Square Enix to give you a $50 physical game, because they're probably eating a lot of the cost for manufacturing the cartridge, while making a Blu-ray disc is like under $1 for a physical, and it's like a lot more for even Switch 1 titles. So my speculation is that Square Enix wanted to have physical presence for the Switch 2 versions, but you can't, like, it takes a lot of effort to do save data transfer on the back end, because we've seen very few games do it. Like, I think Deltarune does it as one of them, but then a lot of other games are either just opting for the proper cross-generation Switch 2 branding, which means more expensive physical, or they're doing digital only. So yeah, put together this explainer, because, like,
Or
when I
or their
yeah,
Bandai
go ahead.
Namco with Sparking Zero, where they're doing the weird thing where there might technically be 2 Switch 2 versions. We don't know yet. We'll have to wait until that's out to see exactly how the shit they're doing works.
Yeah, because they said that there's some drama where if you upgrade or you patch the Switch 1 version on Switch 2, you can't do cross-platform play because of the frame rate difference or something. But then the Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions, as per their website, which, like, to be clear, is usually wrong about some platforms. I don't know, like, until like someone gets code and plays it, no one is actually gonna know how that works, because yeah, Square Enix is just like, there are some people I know who want to buy Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake physical on Switch 1, and they were hoping to get, like, a free patch like Dragon Quest 3 got. And yeah, I forgot to mention Dragon Quest 3, that got like a huge free Switch 2 compatibility update, which added like 60 FPS, much higher visuals and all, and that was free. But I don't know what they're doing. Hopefully, like, either they move out of the cross-gen period, or they, like, make things a bit easier for people with their next cross-generation release.
I almost feel like you need like one of those like pre-order tables for only, it's not quite pre-orders,
Oh,
it's
you
more like
genuinely
just
Yeah.
console and features.
Yeah, I
this
just, like,
is-
I
this
had to
is
make one
only-
of those.
Yeah, this is only gonna be like a temporary problem, but it's gonna last a couple years until like Switch 1, like, companies just stop making games for it. It's definitely
Oh, you did make a table. Perfect. RPG Site supports tables now, and we appreciate it.
Do they
Definitely.
support tappers yet?
What?
Do they support tappers?
I'm not sure I know what a tapper is.
Damn. All these Trails guys and tappers, and no one seems to know what the hell a tapper is.
I might know what it is, just not by name. Is it like an accordion?
It's like when you open a different tab, right? You could use a tab to hide things.
Okay.
I don't think you mean tab. I think you mean like a drop down, like menu.
Oh, I know what you mean. Okay, yeah. So it's more like what James is saying, where like there's like headers, but then like there's like an arrow on the side that you can expand out. So
I've always called that an accordion. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what it's actually called.
Yeah, I actually don't know what the
I
proper
do not think it's
label.
actually
for that.
called tapper. I'm
Yeah.
pretty
I
sure
have no
that's
idea.
not the name.
I don't know.
People call it tappers at one time. Well, okay.
I actually
I got-
don't know what the proper name for it is. Maybe it is like just different
we'll ask
places.
we'll ask our boss to add that for our guides. But no, but thank you, Mikhail, for covering Square Enix's Switch 1, Switch 2 specifics and tactics. We talked, of course, when that released about through most of those details, but I guess I didn't like compartmentalize in my head the fact that if you chose the classic version, that you don't get like the turn order or the speed up. Like, oh man, like you're really like we mentioned that it was all or nothing, but I'm not like, oh yeah, it really is all or nothing in terms of the refinement. So good reminder on that front. And then of course Romancing Saga 2, an excellent game from that was last year, or was that 2 years ago?
That was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
last year.
So that and Metaphor kind of came out right around the same time.
And then I did one more feature, which we'd probably cover because Cullen wrote an article on Ease versus Trails in the Sky Alternative Saga. And before he did that, I had access to the game around the same time. So I just wrote up a short thing about how it just plays great on Steam Deck and Nintendo Switch 2. And the notable news around that is obviously like it's a PSP remaster, so you'd expect it to be good as long as it's not by Bandai Namco, I guess, because you can't trust them on Switch. But yeah, it just plays fantastic. It's pretty crazy to just have that in English officially. Has anyone else here played it yet?
No,
I
not
own it,
yet.
Play
but
the
I haven't
PSP
played it.
version.
Yeah, I played the PSP version, but the $35. Like I was kind of, I didn't know it was gonna retail for $35. I'm like, that's kind of high for that game.
The only
So
thing I
yeah,
remember
they,
from
they
that game, it's like heavily Yeast 7 like.
yeah, it feels like you're playing a elaborate mod for E7, and it has like more reused assets than like RGG Studio games. It's like pretty funny to finally play this. But the one thing they did say is that because it's a Switch One game, they're working on a patch which is coming soon to deliver improved visuals and improved visuals and resolution on Switch 2. So I don't know when that patch is coming out, but I think it already looks really nice, and it's pretty crazy that this game has rollback and cross-platform play. Like I was able to test that also. Like how did we get that over here but not in Aquapasa? Like what is going on?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome that you were able to do that. That's it's probably something I'll pick up on discount and play with friends and goof off in it. It's definitely, I see it as more of like a party game that like you kind of just boot up and just like do silly shit in.
No, you just made me look up some more Trails content at different websites. Man, state of gaming.
There's really broken shit in that game. If you try to play that game like quote unquote competitively at all, it just doesn't work. There's so much broken shit in it.
Yeah, and we do want to shout out that both Mikhail and Colin put up the features on the recently localized, like yesterday at the time of recording, Yeast versus Trails in the Sky alternative saga. So Colin basically wrote up an op-ed, not quite review up on the site, but was really really excited to see this game officially in English. And like you say, Josh, it's just like a fun game to play with friends and not to take too seriously in terms of like competitiveness.
But it's go for it, Adam.
I liked Cullen's his draft. He basically calls like this game kind of like is it a great game? Maybe not, but like the fact that it exists at all, the fact that you can buy it and play it officially, and that the remaster is like high effort, like it wasn't just phoned in, mailed in. Like they put effort into modernizing just like the performance and UI and everything for this game. Which like did this game deserve it? Who knows? But like he called it like a genuine novelty, and I also thought it was
Basically, like rebuilt the game from almost from the ground up in that regard. When you think about like the process they have to go through for that.
I like this. I like this part of his review. It's not like he didn't like score it, but it's a review. I like this part of it where he's like, imagine a world where a bunch of characters you liked from your favorite franchise fell into a mysterious world where they all had to fight each other at the behest of two deities that run things. If you thought Dissidia, you're wrong, but your head's in the right spot. I just like his comparison to Dissidia there.
Yeah.
I was
It's kind of like
Smash.
it's kind of like Power Stone 2 in a way.
Mm-hmm.
More than this, it's like Power Stone 2 with E7 combat and Falcom reused assets and some new music, some old music. But I don't know, it's just a bizarre fan service game that, like, yeah, I'm glad it exists. That's all.
I wanted to also mention a friend of the site, Ribos, mentioned this on his social media. But with the release of East vs. Trails Alternative Saga, this makes it 3 for 3 on Geofront projects that they released, just being like real games that like you can buy now officially to support, like all the projects that they officially released, both the Crossbell games and now East vs. Trails, they became like official projects that got publishers and you can buy for money.
Whatever happened to that dinosaur
Official
thing?
storefronts. I don't know what happened.
It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like a lot of the Geofront people now, like
Have jobs.
they have jobs in the industry, so it's
Yep.
like this stuff they have less time to work on because like Nate, like he's like been at NISA for like years at this point.
Mhm.
So honestly, I'm surprised they let him be part of the credits for Trails East versus Trails.
Yeah,
'Cause he's
I think
Go-
I believe the credits for the like just like have all of the Geofront people from what I understand.
Yep.
So that's cool to see that, like, hey, So it's just like
You
a really
think it's
fascinating
gonna say-
observation.
I do think
I was gonna say, were they working on the
Greg
Gregward trilogy or something? Was that this
Gagarv
team, or was it some? or somebody else?
There's some work going on in that, but again, like I said, slower. It's funny how I did get some pushback when I said that when this was like revealed, and I said, "Oh, it's a bunch of Geofront people on it," and they were like, "Oh, it's not Geofront affiliate." It's like I'm talking about the people that made up Geofront, and a lot of those people that maybe aren't directly Geofront still worked on this. It's not that complicated. Yeah.
But I'm curious to see where Refit Games goes next. That's such like an interesting, I guess, concept of a studio of like what their mission statement is in that regard.
Yep.
I might be wrong, but I think ReFant Games is based in Germany, but I might be wrong there.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
One of the main people I know at ReFant
Is that
was
Adrian?
actually in the state. Yeah, Adrian. He was in the States for Anime Expo, and I actually got dinner with him and Nate at a ramen place. So, and he told me about some of the stuff that went into like the Switch 2 patch that this game is either getting or will have. So,
But yeah, this
interesting stuff.
this game is actually that dev team's basically second project. The first project is a Toho game that I'm not familiar with. You know, there's so many of those.
It's
but
the SMT one, Artificial Arcadia. I forgot the exact name, but it's the SMT1 or SMT2 style game, which was on PC. They brought it to console only, I believe.
But yeah, this is their second project, basically.
Really, really cool.
Yep.
Well, I think that covers us for games, previews, features, interviews that we had to talk about this week. Of course, next week we've got a big title on the horizon with Pokemon Legends ZA and a few other late October releases just in the following weeks.
Pokemon Saw.
Za. Oh, I thought you said "aw," like you were like upset. Like,
Yeah, that too.
So we have people working on that. We'll be talking about that next week. This week, in terms of news, a lot of kind of clerical, schedule sort of things here. A few updates. In terms of like footage or upcoming information about games for 2026, one of the earliest 2026 releases slated for late January is Code Vein 2. So Bandai Namco is ramping up, the media coverage for that upcoming release. This week we got a story trailer and we got details about some of the characters. And I have not played Code Vein 1, but Code Vein 2 is all about time travel. So you are a nameless protagonist. You go back in time and you're meeting heroes to stop an impending disaster. And the story trailer just goes through these heroes, how they interface with this buddy system. I forget if they call it buddy system, but
I think they call it partner system in the
Dated
West.
for January?
Yes, January 30th.
Oh.
Yep.
I wonder if that's going to stick because they still haven't let anyone play it.
Remember when the original Code Vein was at E3 and everyone was at
Yep.
the demo and everyone was like, wow, that demo kind of sucked. And then they delayed it like a whole year.
Yep. But Code Vein 2, and we also got, some of the information about the different characters. Did we get voice actors in? No, I guess we don't have voice actors.
We have Japanese voice actors in one of Kite's earlier posts, but we don't have English ones yet.
Yosi, or however you pronounce it, she just looks like Baiken from
People said that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, there's an interesting sequel because I think even existing Code Vein fans are like, they don't know how they feel about it because this game distinctly is it's separating itself from the first Code Vein in a way I think people weren't expecting, because the end of the first Code Vein had a pretty big revelation that it had direct ties to the God Eater universe. So people were like, oh, I wonder where they go from here. And this one is just going in a totally different direction that I think some people wish they leaned more into that finale of the first Code Vein.
There was one other thing I thought when I looked ahead at this that I wanted to bring up, but now I don't remember what it was. My bad. Oh, I remember what it was. They're going back in the past, and I watched the trailer very quickly. I watched it at double speed, and they're going back to the ancient past to find these heroes to help prevent this calamity. And it's they're going back to the 100 years ago, and I don't know if like my sense of scale is all wrong. Like 100 years is not like they're talking about like statues and like old. I don't know. I guess we have statues of people that are less than 100. It just felt
It doesn't
like
feel like
they
ancient
framed it as
past
if it was like
though.
yeah, and maybe that was just like me expecting something different. And like, oh, I guess they're going 100 years in the past. Like you could see like your great grandparents or something. Like to me, that just seems like too short of a skip. But this is just a 4-minute trailer, so maybe it works better in context of the
Also,
game.
just about time traveling vampires sounds like suspension of
Yeah,
disbelief.
yeah, whatever.
Uh,
So we have both the character details and the story trailer up on the site. Some updates for some upcoming releases. Actually, this is not for an upcoming release. This is for a game that we've kind of covered in over the summer. Uh, System Shock 2, 25th anniversary remaster. We covered pretty extensively back when it released in June, and this one I thought was an interesting topic for a headline. Is that the original version on PC of System Shock 2, the 1999 version, as of yesterday, is no longer available for standalone purchase, at least from a digital storefront. I'm sure you could find, on the secondhand
Keys,
market, like
yeah.
old PC discs. But the 1999 version is included in the Night Dive Studios 25th anniversary package in that digital purchase, but is no longer available separately, which I just thought was kind of like, huh. I don't know how I feel about that, which I don't mean I necessarily feel bad because it is still like if it wasn't included in the Night Dive version, I'd be like, no, keep the original version around. But it's like, okay, at least it's still there.
Yeah, I guess the main downside, I suppose, is if you really want to play the original version. Let's just say you have that attachment to it, or you just academically you want to play how it was. You have to now buy the remaster, which is now more expensive. So, like, if you want the original version, it costs more, but you can now buy them as a bundle. Like, you get both the original and the remaster. So it's not like it doesn't exist anymore, but you have to get them as a bundle. So it's like, I don't know. That's about it.
We also have one of the games that was slated to release late in the month from I almost want to say Shovel Knight Games. No, Yacht Club Games of Shovel Knight fame. Mina the Hollower. It's been indefinitely delayed, even though they have stated in their release that the delay is not expected to be too long. They've not given a date. So it was originally slated to release on October 31st, and Yacht Club Games has basically just said, we've decided to apply a small stretch of time to apply final polish and balancing to make the game truly shine. We're working on some balancing, localization, and then just testing. So, and then there was a
Jason Schreier did actually the same day put out a article where coincidentally, well, I guess the day afterwards, he put out an article where he had a chance to take a look at the current state of the project and get some more details about why the delay and how long they expect it to be. Basically, it literally is just polished. The main thing seems to be, since it's an open world game, not open world in when I say an open world game, not in that sense, but more like Link's Awakening, how that was like not segmented levels, but like one big world. Obviously, Shovel Knight was a level based game, and there's like different challenges when you're trying to design a world where it makes sense to how to go from one area to another. So it's like polishing up assets to make it more clear stuff that can be interacted with, or there might be like somewhat hidden paths, that sort of thing. And they're just doing polishing on that front. And it probably helps that October, November are a pretty stacked window for indie releases. So maybe early next year is a better time for them to launch anyways.
Yeah, I did see that Jason Schreier article, but I didn't have like it was behind a paywall for me, so I didn't get to see it. But definitely is worth looking into, and thanks for providing some of the context behind the delay. And then this one's a real quick one, an upcoming November release, Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. Nintendo and Koei Tecmo have started, at least on the Japanese media front, releasing some character information. These aren't the first ones, but the next set that they've showed are basically the champion stand-ins for the 4 races that I believe in Tears of the Kingdom in the flashbacks they were unnamed. they all had masks: the Goron, the Gerudo, the Rito, and the Zora. So we get a look in at each of these characters, and Kite covered this. And I don't know if these names are official or if they're Kite's translation, because I tried looking to see if there was Western press release for the names. But like the Goron is Argasta, the Zora is Kia. So just a little quick look in at some of the playable characters for that game, which is coming out in also not too long, less than a month.
That's weird that it's like that's already like less than a month away. It doesn't feel real yet because there's like they've showed so little of it. Like they showed some gameplay footage, but like not a lot. It's just like a lot about this project is like I don't know. It just feels so under wraps, which is probably a good thing. But
I'm
still
so
doesn't feel real.
reminded when they announced it, they're like the canon story. They're like, please pay attention, or like this actually happened. Like, oh, I'm sure, whatever.
I need more games to say that for their marketing in their initial reel. The canon story for the podcast.
I
But,
love
yeah,
how it's actually a marketing point this time because the actual story of Tears of the Kingdom is kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like obviously we as far as we can tell, what we have seen is that this running on Switch 2 is going to be in a better state than some of the other games that released in this
Yep.
in the sub series. So, well, more to see when that releases in early November. This one I put under sales, but it's actually an announcement as well. So this is about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It has reached the sales milestone of 5 million copies. And in addition to that, Sandfall has announced that they are working on a new free update that will include new enemy encounters, new surprises. I think they specifically say new bosses.
Yeah.
And I know some of the voice actors, like Ben Starr, basically said, like, "Hey, I'm back in the booth to record more lines." So I don't know how substantial that is, but they're saying, like, "Yep, we are." Obviously, the game is selling well. Obviously, the game has been received very well, and they are still working on some extracurriculars, so to speak, in terms of extra content, maybe stuff they wanted to do but couldn't package in with the original release. No timetable or anything like that, other than that it is planned to be a free update, which is always really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they have in store with this. Like they call it like a thank you free update. Just hey, neat, good on them on just. I'm very interested to see what they were. Well, still interested to hear like what their internal expectations were in terms of like their sales milestones expectations before this game released, and how it actually turned out. Because I imagine it still far exceeded anyone's wildest dreams on that. But I just want to know like kind of the rough number they were expecting.
And with that, we're going into some of these are announcements and dates kind of combined. I'll go with the Square Enix stuff first. They've announced some various different physical editions that are going to be launching at different points this year. They've announced that they're going to release Switch versions of Final Fantasies 8, 9, and 10. Not the remakes or the remastered editions. Oh, I guess it's remastered Final Fantasy 8, but regular 7 and 9. For Nintendo Switch 1, 7 and 8 are in a combo 2-pack where Final Fantasy 9 is separate. These are slated for December 9th. And were there any other details on this, Mikhail, for these Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 Switch releases coming in December?
Yeah. So this is basically Square Enix just releasing ESRB versions of physical editions that have already existed in either Asia or Europe or both for a while now. So what happened is when Final Fantasy VIII Remastered released on like all the platforms, it was simultaneously, if I remember correctly, except mobile came later. They did a physical in Asia which was called the Final Fantasy 7 and 8 Remastered Twin Pack, and I actually imported that back then because I thought owning Final Fantasy 7 on a cartridge for a Nintendo system was like quite funny. And what happened after that is I think Square Enix and in Asia and Bandai Namco, who distribute some of Square Enix's Asian like releases in that region, realized that there was a market for doing physical releases for Square Enix RPGs, and they started doing quite a few of them. And like I've imported quite a few of them, like the SaGa games. They even did Chrono Cross, Chow's favorite game, and then they did Final Fantasy 9 and Romancing Saga 3. And these are notable because they use the horizontal box art on the Switch case, so you essentially have like a horizontal cover on a vertical game case, if that makes sense. And Final Fantasy IX was just in Asia. Oh yeah, and to be clear, these never got Japanese physical releases at all. This was just Asia, and because the games are like universal ROMs for these specific versions, you could just import them and it would pick up your save data without issues for 7, 8 remastered, and 9. Then randomly Square Enix in Europe released the 7 and 8 twin pack as a PEGI rated like official retail release for Europe. But nothing was announced for North America at all until like Square Enix just randomly decided to do repackage or just do ESRB versions of these physicals. And for those who want to buy them, if you've not played these ports before, I have an article on Final Fantasy IX covering the Switch port. I urge you to read that before you buy it, because FF9 on Switch is the worst version of the remaster by far. And 7 and 8 remastered are fine on Switch. There's no real problem with that. And the other physical release which Square Enix announced is Final Fantasy VII Remake, Intergrade, and 7 Rebirth twin pack on PS5 across 3 Blu-ray discs. This is like a repackaged double bundle of just Final Fantasy VII Remake, Intergrade, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The latter was on 2 Blu-ray discs for PS5. The one thing which they haven't clarified is whether Intergrade, like episode intermission, is still a code or it's on the disc. I'll be betting money on it being a code and them just reusing the old discs like for all these games. So that's what I think is happening. But the pricing is a bit weird on this because Final Fantasy 7 and 8 twin pack is 40 US, which is fine. I think both of those together retail for like 35 digitally if you buy them at full price. But Final Fantasy 9 is 40 itself as well. I think that's like way too much for
That is
that
interesting
port.
that it's the same price. Yeah.
Yeah. And Final Fantasy, the 7 Remake and 7 Rebirth double pack on PS5 is 60 US for both. That's a good deal because
That's
the
not bad,
twin
yeah.
pack, the twin pack digitally last year was 80 or 70 US, I believe. Or was it 80 or I think 7 Remake was a pre-order bonus or something like that they did for the PS5, and for PC they did this weird thing where they had like a big launch discount because it was a late port, but they still have like a twin pack bundle which is more expensive. Let me just check right now.
While you're
I
checking, like I still look at these box arts, and when you see so much text on the box and it includes the words physical edition, it's like, yeah, that comes with the fact that it's in a box. Like it's like you don't need to put that on the box, but Square Enix, that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, so okay, I found it. So the twin pack is currently 100 US on Steam. On PSN, I believe it's not 100. Because I remember it was a pre-order bonus, like Remake was a pre-order bonus for Rebirth. So I don't know what they're doing and whether this December release will mean they lower the retail price on Steam as well. But right now, if you want Rebirth and Remake together on Steam, it's 100 US. So this is like a big discount over that. And yeah, this is also releasing in December. I think Square Enix is just doing some random retail releases for old games again because they recently released this Life is Strange collection on PS5, which has like 2 of the games on discs and everything else on codes included in one big box. So I don't know what they're doing.
Oh, speaking of Life is Strange, I have a very small thing. So Square Enix's investor relation outlines are super delayed. They used to be like 2 or 3 months delayed, and now they're like 8 months delayed. Which is really weird because like Capcom and Sega get their outlines out right away. So I don't know why Square Enix takes so long. But anyways, Square Enix released their outline for the investor meeting that took place in February 2025. It's about 8 months ago, which was for the reporting period that ended last December. So we're talking about almost a whole year. Anyways, they had some comments on Life is Strange because last year they released Life is Strange Double Exposure, which was like a sequel to the original in a sense. I don't know, I'm not super familiar, but it had that main character, right? And they said,
But it was by Deck 9,
yeah,
not by Don't Nod. So it was this
correct.
weird, like, anyway, I'll get to it after you finish this.
Yeah, correct. Deck 9 is done. They did like the Before the Storm release. They did True Colors, and then they did this one. So they now like have been doing the more recent entries. But yeah, they said that Life is Strange Double Exposure was, quote, a fairly substantial drag on our earnings as sales have been very poor. And so seems like Life is Strange is not in a good spot right now. Their most recent release was they basically said that that brought down their sales number for that quarter, but Dragon Quest, which also came out that quarter, Dragon Quest 3, basically made up for it. So, anyways, you mentioned Life is Strange, and that made me think of that. Like, oh yeah, that's where the Life is Strange franchise is right now. Is they released a new game with a fan favorite character, and it did not do very well. So
because the moment they showed Deck 9 was behind it, and they said it was kind of like this either this reboot, or basically they changed how Max looked, and they were doing some weird stuff with the story even before the game came out. Everyone I know who loved Life is Strange just wrote it off and didn't give it a shot. And then I think Square Enix did this bizarre thing where if you pre-ordered it, you got like the 2 episodes early or something like that, and that also annoyed people because like you're doing this in a story-driven, like story-heavy game. So I don't know, like they pulled a lot of stuff pre-release which annoyed all the fans I know of the game. I still played it. And then they did something which kind of surprised me because they did a physical release for this on Switch 1, which was after the late port came out. But this is the title they paid for like a 16 GB cartridge for to like ship the game completely on it. But they've done like weird, half physical releases or like code in box for a lot of their Japanese side RPGs. So I'm not really sure how they made this decision. But yeah, they kind of did good in a way where they delivered a Switch physical, which a lot of people like, but then they did it for a game which a lot of people didn't like. And it was kind of a technical mess when it came out because I remember it was either this was the game which was like 30 FPS on PS5 initially, and they had to patch it or something like that. Like you said, right? This is like a 8 months late for a earnings thing for a release which happened even earlier. I can barely remember what happened last month, so I think I
Yeah.
should just keep quiet on that. But yeah, this game had a lot of weird stuff pre-release which annoyed people. I remember that for sure.
we also got more direct from Square Enix quotes on Final Fantasy 16. We all love those, right? Remember Final Fantasy 16?
Was this counting just the PS5 version, or was this
No,
with PC because of the
this
time
would have
frame?
been after PC because the PC version came out last
fine.
September or whatever it was.
But would this be Xbox as well?
No,
I don't remember when that came out.
Not Xbox.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
they were asked about Final Fantasy 16, and they said feedback from users on the game have been extremely good. We did not reach the level of sales that we had targeted at the outset, but we achieved a great deal in terms of raising skill levels within our in-house development team by developing a game that made full use of the performance capabilities offered by what was at the time the most cutting-edge hardware. Which is kind of like a weird consolation prize. Like, yeah, we didn't reach our sales. We didn't reach our sales target, but we learned a lot. So,
well, that's life, right?
Now, again, this quote is really old now, but this is if you want direct quotes from Square Enix and not like filtered through an analyst and a language barrier, this is it. Just takes this long.
But I get my Square Enix news from Twitter users. Like, isn't that where we all get it from? Yeah. Okay.
Now, I actually look back, and some of the stuff that was said at this meeting, again, 8 months ago, was like some comments on it from, social media and whatnot. So, like, some of this you may have heard before, but I like waiting for, like, the official transcript, no risk of anything being misconstrued or, editorialized or whatever. Just
Absolutely.
This is what they said.
Translated version of it?
I think that kind of wraps up all of the Square Enix. We had a lot of Square Enix news this week, which we tend to. So, and obviously that's going to continue as we go into Dragon Quest 1 and 2 and Occupy Zero and all that stuff. A couple more release dates. This one was announced not too long ago, I think back in August, that THQ Nordic was going to be working on a remaster of Sacred 2, which was like one of those late 2000s. I think of it as a PC RPG. The remaster is going to release on November 11th for PC, PS5, and Xbox. So basically a week from today, or a month from today. My apologies.
Who is the
I
developer
played this
of
on
Sacred?
PS3. Oh, the original one or this one?
Well, who was the original developer of Sacred 2? Like, I'm blanking.
Ascaron, I think, according to our website.
Okay, I'm not.
Ascaron. Yeah.
Okay.
They worked on stuff like Dark Star 1, I think. Pork Royale.
And the
I think that-
remaster is being developed by Sparkling Bit, which I don't know much about.
I remember playing this on PS3. It's obviously read pretty poorly on PS3, but on top of that, just like it's jank. But somehow it was still okay. I remember, but I know that like I feel like all the other Suikoden games that came after this were not as well received. I think Sacred 3 people don't like.
One of the games we talked about last week in passing was upcoming PC port for Utawarerumono Zan. It was originally slated for October 23rd. We talked about it in the context of Utawarerumono Zan 2 getting a PC version announced, which would be also ostensibly its Western release. But the PC version of Utawarerumono Zan has been pushed back from October 23rd to December 16th to assure the game's quality. So just a couple month delay for that.
Do you feel reassured?
No.
Okay.
Christmas.
I
game.
don't really have an opinion. Yeah. December releases are good. I like December. I don't like October. There's too many in October. And then the last headline that I have listed here is just kind of like looking ahead to a couple weeks from now. Bethesda is going to have their Fallout Day 2025 stream on October 23rd. The scuttlebutt is Fallout 3 remaster, but I don't know if people are just saying that because Oblivion was recently remastered. I have no idea what to see here. They recently I've seen like the Fallout 76 has a big update either released or coming soon that they might talk about. Otherwise, I have no idea. They'll probably tie in the Amazon show, which obviously was a big success for them.
Sure. Yeah.
But no idea really what they're going to show at the Fallout streaming event in a week and a half.
I think they've specified updates on existing games, but like there's some wiggle room here because if you remember the Microsoft, when they had the Activision court stuff going on, there was like a leak for some roadmap which had the Oblivion remaster, and it also had Fallout 3 remaster if I remember correctly. Now I don't know
I don't remember
if
that.
that being over here would still count as an update on an existing game because it would be like maybe a remake or a remaster of an existing game. But I don't know if this is the place they would reveal that. But yeah, that's probably the only thing I'd hope to see over here because whenever I tried Fallout 3, it looks so awful and it plays so awful. I just like. Not like Oblivion fixed all the tech issues with this remake, but I take that over Fallout 3 original any day of the week.
I was trying to find what that new Fallout 76 update was going to be because it's based on Burning Springs, which is based on has some tie-in with the show, is slated for December. So I'm guessing they'll talk about that slightly. Like I'm looking at like this page of updates for Fallout 76, and I was up to date, and then I stopped playing when Bethesda.net launcher died, and then I'm like, oh, like I've missed a lot, but not that much. But I'm sure we'll see more of that.
I'm reading this update list from the Fallout Wiki, and it says Burning Springs is the 25th major update for Fallout 76. Been a lot.
They're generous with that
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
framing.
I know if you like consider like the main updates, it might be number 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah. But we'll see what that is in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, that covers our headlines for this week. Obviously, we have a lot to look forward to. But still on this week, we still have a lot of features up on the site in terms of interviews and previews and a review and all but name for East versus Trails in the Sky. So go to rpgsite.net, hit that articles tab, and give us some likes, ratings, and comments. We love to see those. If you listen to this podcast all the way to the end, it's a little bit of a shorter episode this week. Leave us a like, leave us a rating, whether you listen to us through Spotify, Amazon Music, or anything. Join our Discord, discord.gg/RPG site. Follow us on social media. Just search for RPG Space Site, and you should be able to find us. And we'll be back next week to talk about Pokemon and probably a few other things. So unless the cast here has any last words,
I like to bring up a topic to extend it by an hour and hit our 3-hour quota.
How dare you?
No, please.
Right,
I'm gonna say
I'm gonna go for a walk, get lunch, and maybe you guys will still be going when I get back.
There you go.
Yeah, Chao's gonna talk to us about Chrono Cross for an hour.
No way, forget that game. We were gonna. I was just gonna say, in the 13th, it's a Monday. It's Canadian Thanksgiving. Okay, I remember this time.
Oh my god,
it's
you
early.
did! Congratulations, Shao. Thank you for the declaration that you remembered Canadian Thanksgiving this year.
Sorry.
If you're Canadian, have a good Thanksgiving.
I need someone to explain to me
Yeah.
how like Chronopolis and Chrono Cross like it moved to the future, and then like Terra Tower from like an alternate future like also moved in the timeline to like counteract it from like a different timeline.
Ooh.
It like jumped timelines, something like that. I need someone to explain this to me.
Yeah, we need a 12-hour video essay on YouTube about this.
The
Sure,
only
someone can do it.
time traveling game I'm gonna play is Code Vein 2 without playing the first one, and then
There
I'll
you go.
report back to tell
Okay.
you how time travel works.
I played Time Hollow, a DS Konami visual novel with time traveling.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll earmark that for next week's topic. But anyways, thank you all so much for listening. We love to have you as our audience. Until you hear us next time, stay safe, take care. We'll talk to y'all then.